Greetings, nerds. This is SNN Nerd. I'm your host, Sarah Belmont, and with me, as always, is our Mr. Producer, Will Polk. How are you doing tonight, Will?
Doing very well, Sarah. How you doing?
I'm doing good. It was a good pre-show.
Yeah, it was a good pre-show. Are we still here?
Once we got rid of all of that lawyer talk, it was great.
Yeah. Oh, I know. See, yeah, I know. It was a lot of legal talk, folks, and I won't bore you all with it. But yeah, it's good to be back with you tonight, though.
It is great to be back, and you want to know why, Will? You want to know why? Because we actually have stuff to talk about tonight.
We do.
Oh, God. I was so the last few weeks, every time you add stuff to the news, I'm just thinking to myself, really, we're really digging at the bottom of the barrel here, yeah. The worst. And it's, I mean, some of the stuff is just like, yeah, okay. But I pat myself on the back because I added the biggest piece of news, but we'll get to that in a few minutes. First, though, this week, as we're all suffering from our houses, there has been a scandal of sorts going on about our new Barry Allen, our old Barry Allen, our Barry Allen of some form, Ezra Miller. There was an incident. There was a meltdown. Will has all the details.
Yeah. So it was he was in Iceland, and he was at a pub there, and it was on April 1st, and everyone, of course, this news broke Monday morning, so most people probably have seen the 7-second or 8-second video of him taking down a woman, in a chokehold, strangled, and gently put her to the ground. And Of course, there was a lot of discussion, especially given that the incident occurred on April 1st. Was this a joke? Was it real?
Was it demonic?
Possession. Yeah, what's the deal here? And so as of our recording, Ezra Miller has not really said anything about it. And it's and interestingly enough, I guess Variety did confirm that the incident did occur and it was him, and also read in the wrap that the police, no one's been charged. I mean, he hasn't been charged. The woman who was assaulted or allegedly assaulted has not pressed charges. So we're just kind of in this weird holding pattern where everyone is like, what's going to happen with The Flash, and also what's going to happen with Fantastic Beasts, because that's the other franchise.
Oh, God forbid. Fantastic Beasts. Oh my God. Wasn't the second one like the worst box office for a Harry Potter movie?
I believe so.
So. Yeah. I already know what's happening with Fantastic Beasts. There are no that are fantastic.
Exactly.
And it kills me when you say we're in a holding pattern, because I just finished out. Well,
that's everyone's lives right now. I know that. But I get, maybe speaking of that, maybe Warner Brothers. I know John Campea had this thought, and I agree, had the same sentiment. Maybe Warner Brothers is just kind of just hoping that with all the COVID stuff, they can just quietly just let it go, and it'll just sort of fade away, and time will make everyone forget about this, and they can just quietly make the Flash film, and we move past this. So who knows?
Well, right now, studios should be reassessing those franchises that have been going downhill or haven't really had, now is the time for a reset, because looking back, we're all going to remember 2020 for multiple reasons. However, when people are actually able to go back to the theaters and able to consume this entertainment and this spectacle that we always talk about, it has to be worth it still. And especially in the beginning months when we go back to the theaters, it really has to be worth the money, because people are going to still be afraid, and no one really knows what that transition period will look like, or even when it'll happen. So So creative juices. Now is the time. You have no excuse. You can't literally leave your home.
Yeah, exactly, and you're
Um,
yeah, yeah. So I mean, and to your point, I mean, this particular film in the DC universe this seems to have been is be so snake bit. I mean, it's been revolving door of directors, of writers, and now you have this on top of it. And so, maybe fate or whatever is just has it writing on the wall. Just stick with the CW, y'all, and just make that show better, and just maybe give up on this feature film for the Flash.
right. Yep. But they'll never listen to us.
They never do.
In other news, SNL will return this weekend. So are they doing what the WWE did recently and pre-taping these?
No. So this is from what I gather reading the report today, it looks like it's possibly a one-off. Could be more, but those, obviously, I think they're going to go the route that some of the talk shows have been going, which is maybe utilizing Zoom, as we talked about in the pre-show, where everybody's using Zoom these days, but putting together some physically distant sketches. Weekend Update will be a part of the show this weekend. It will air live East Coast, be taped delayed on West Coast. But Saturday Night Live is known more for it. I think it's opening sketches and viral posts that we see Sunday morning than actually anybody actually watching the show. So, I mean, this last month is going to give them the sketches they can do with social distancing. It's just going to be a must-watch event that I think we'll see on the Twitter timelines on Sunday morning of everybody reposting whatever they come up with.
Yeah, I think people are just starved for entertainment right now, and so if they are able to do that and break their former model, as you mentioned, other talk shows specifically are doing and getting really good results, in my opinion, then yeah, I think there'll be ample amount of content that occurs, and I know a lot of people in watching WrestleMania as pre-taped, a lot of people were impressed, to say the least. Now, granted, I suspect most people had low expectations.
Yeah.
Because it's never happened before, and what is it going to look like? And that show, the performers feed so much off of the audiences and the pops, as they call it, as the kids call it, that to not have that is awkward. And from what I hear, everyone overall seems to have enjoyed what they produced for that for their Super Bowl. Yeah. So interesting. And it's funny because it's something at work. So for those of you who don't know, I work in HR, and we constantly remind ourselves we are still recruiting employees.
Yeah.
Despite everything, we're still hiring. And on that note, people are still getting cast to do things, even though we don't really understand production schedules right now.
Yeah, really. Yeah.
So Lisa Kudrow has joined the Netflix show Space Force with Steve Carell. I heard about this, Will. So it's the Office version, a version of The Office in space.
Yeah. So I guess it's Greg Daniels, who actually was one of the producers on The Office team, and it looks like Steve Carell plays a colonel who is part of the new Space Force, the Trump Space Force. Not to get political or anything, but and Lisa Kudrow apparently has been cast to play his wife.
Yeah. I don't know. And all I can think about is why are they not capitalizing on the good news network that John Krasinski has put out, and then you could do something still meta, and Steve could be his boss, his producer, and it could bring all of that full circle.
Oh, that would be so meta, so awesome. Oh, we gotta send this clip to John Krasinski and Steve Carell, and make sure I will represent you to make sure you get your residuals and get your cut for coming up with this idea, because that is a great one.
I can just picture. I just have this image of Steve Carell like being the cameraman, and then them getting into a dispute, and Emily Blunt comes over with her cell phone and starts recording.
Oh yeah, maybe for Quibi.
The beauty of having a superstar couple, both of them are famous and know how to act. No. Also, this caught me off guard. It's not that I forgot about this show, but I didn't really expect them to come out with a sequel. And it feels soon, but I feel as if it was a good year or a year and a half ago that this series first dropped. But Homecoming on Amazon did get a season 2, and they dropped the trailer for it this week. Now, here's what I'm noticing, Will.
Yeah.
When I sit down to watch trailers, I no longer watch the full trailer. I watch until I feel as though I understand the plot synopsis that a trailer is supposed to give you, and then I turn it off. Mm-hmm. It's a fascinating technique.
Very fascinating. Very fascinating.
And that's what I did with this. I got pretty far into the trailer, and it felt very edited. This is more along the lines of a teaser trailer than anything else, to just remind you of that world. It really does feel connected to it. It's been a while since I watched the show, but it felt as though same universe.
Yep. It is the same universe.
Yeah. Well, yeah, but you know how sometimes, especially when there's a long period, it doesn't feel as connected. And in this case, we have a different main character. No Julia Roberts.
Nope.
No shot of her. So, and that's the linchpin for most viewers.
That's true because, I mean, obviously, Stephen Jones is coming back as Walter Cruz.
Mm-hmm.
But and of course I think the company, I can't remember the name of it right off the top of my head right now, that created the Super Soldier program is there. But you're right. It is, the trailer did seem in same universe, but yet seemed divorced from it too.
You have spent way too much time with me talking about comics, because they did not create a super soldier program.
Well,
okay. Just to remind everybody, they created a drug that would make you forget, and their prime target was soldiers who were returning from war to get rid of their PTSD. Or to numb their PTSD.
Right.
They did not make Captain America.
No, I didn't call it Captain America, but these soldiers did do some missions that I think was triggered PTSD and were in this particular program. And I remember, Inspector General guy, Inspector General, like, trying to get to the bottom of the drug and the bottom of the center.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. A center that did not produce super soldiers.
No, it did not. It did not. Fair enough.
But speaking of super soldiers, and why I am so happy to be talking to you tonight, Will, Marvel dropped Phase 4, new release dates. There's a schedule. Everything's going to happen next year.
Yeah, pretty much.
Fingers crossed.
Hopefully AMC theaters will be open for us to go see it.
One can hope. The thing that is gonna the thing that's gonna decide this is Black Widow, because right now they vaguely put out a date of just November 20.
Right.
And I understand, but that's just so now that's moved to November, which forced the Eternals to get moved to February.
Mm-hmm.
Morbius is now in March.
Mm-hmm.
Shang-Chi and the Ten Rings is in May. Spider-Man 3, not Venom, but Spider-Man 3, July 16th. And Doctor Strange 2, November 5th, 2021. That is 5 freaking Marvel films in 1 year.
Yeah, that's a lot.
5.
5.
Correct me if I'm wrong, Will. The most we've ever had in 1 year is 3.
Right. Yeah, I think that's correct. Because we've had, yeah, that is the max. Because we had what we had. Let's see, Avengers in Endgame, Ant-Man, and which was the other? And then was it?
Didn't we have Black Panther 1 year? And then another
that's what it was. It was Black Panther, Infinity War,
Ant-Man.
And Ant-Man. Yeah, that's the year. Yep.
Yeah. And so.
Direct. Yeah. Because that's right. Thor Ragnarok came out the year before that. That's correct. Yeah.
And so now we get 2 additional movies dropping in this long span, and a part of me, I can be mad that we're not getting we could get Black Widow in November. Fingers crossed that's how long we have to wait for that movie. But I'm sorry, I come from instant gratification. I like the fact we're getting 5 movies in 1 year.
Oh yeah, definitely. Like Bring it on. And also, we haven't even talked about the TV schedule, because again, those shows are interrupted as far as their production. So, we get Black Widow this year. When will Falcon and Winter Soldier get pushed back from August to a little bit later, or and then of course we have Loki and we have WandaVision. So, have
you seen the schedule for the TV shows?
I don't think they've updated it since the early release.
Right, which is why they're not currently on our rundown, because I didn't see them either. Yeah. But you bring up a great point, is that from what we understand, those TV shows play into the larger cinematic universe. Right. So now that we have a definite or a potential phase 4 release date schedule, will the shows drop at the right time to really feed into the overall narrative that they've already planned out?
Yeah, that's a great question. And yeah, because I know, if I recall, Doctor Strange 2 in particular had a tie-in to WandaVision.
Oh, yeah, because she's going to be in Doctor Strange 2. And we know that the from what we gather on the WandaVision trailers, she's going crazy. A lot of grief. And so she's going to trigger something that's going to result in this multiverse of madness for Doctor Strange.
Yeah.
And really it should just be hyphen House of M, whatever. So but yeah, that's exactly the show where, as soon as I saw this release date schedule, I immediately thought, okay, when are we going to get WandaVision?
Yep. Yeah. Because I know the original plan. Yeah, because the original plan was to drop WandaVision later, I think around the time that Black Widow was supposed to be dropping. So, so how do they? This is a new world for them, having this cinematic universe and the television universe on Disney Plus going at the same, potentially at the same time. So, of course, entertainment. We're all going to be so starved for entertainment. I don't think we'll care too much that they overlap, but from a Disney standpoint, how do they want to schedule these things? So, it would not surprise me that when we'll maybe in a few weeks get a revised television release schedule, given especially that I think some of these shows were still in production when everything came to a halt. Yep.
And just because we're getting 5 movies in 2021 does not mean that 2022 will be another 2020. No, we're still getting 3 movies in
Mhm.
2022. We're getting Thor in February. The one release date that I had a problem with. You want to know why? Because this is Thor 4, God of Love and Thunder.
Mhm.
They're dropping it on February 28th. What the heck?
Yeah, yeah.
I don't know what day of the week February 14th is that year, but why the heck not?
Yeah,
It's
exactly.
a Valentine's Day movie.
Totally. Totally. They missed their opportunity there. They totally
Oh,
missed their opportunity.
so mad about that. And then Black Panther 2, May 6th, and Captain Marvel 2, July 8th. Oh, it's building. It's building.
Yeah.
I I really like it how it's all laid out. And next year it's gonna be a lot of new stories, new characters, and then we're gonna get hit with Thor, Black Panther, Captain Marvel, the return of the greats. And so just looking at the schedule on paper, it's building. And I
Yeah.
love that feeling.
Yeah.
Very exciting.
Very much so. Very much so. And then, and after that, we'll get Blade, and then so there's even the next phase.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean it's just granted everything's come to a halt this year, but man, it's going to be awesome the next 2 after that.
Yeah, and this is what I love about Marvel is even despite everything, and despite the setbacks, they still manage to release information in a way that makes me happy and makes me excited and makes me want to go back and rewatch some of those older movies. And because that, and I keep thinking about what if all of this had occurred last year? Like, this is a time when we were all preparing for Endgame.
Yeah.
And can you imagine that? Like, thank God that was a 2019 movie.
Yeah, totally. I know this week that there's been the watch parties and stuff, and but then the thing that was trending for a while on social media earlier this week was that's the scene of Mjolnir and Captain America wielding it in Endgame, and this we all were like, it was like that collective like, wow. This time last year we were sitting in theaters cheering, and I think they even had like the soundtrack of like people cheering in the theaters when that moment happened. So yeah, so that's something to look. Yeah, it's just those things to look forward to. So hopefully AMC gets a buyer and they can survive it, and we can go back to the multiplex and watch a film, because it is that experience. That's the kind of experience that you just can't have. Watching a film solo or on your home screen.
Yeah. Those viewing parties were not social distancing appropriate, which is probably why we now have to deal with COVID. It's because there were sold out theaters for months with people just sitting like less than a foot apart. Like a can of sardines.
Yep.
All to see one 3-hour movie.
Yep.
Oh man. All right. So we are going to now talk about Little Fires Everywhere. We have 2 more episodes after this that they'll be dropping in the upcoming weeks. Flashback episode.
Yeah.
Flashback. So I'm sure, Will, that you already know my criticism.
Yeah.
Pretty obvious.
We may share it. Let me hear yours first.
So I was really scared during the first 5 to 10 minutes, basically the cold open of this episode, because it was all about me as a young girl. And now, granted, other episodes have featured these snippet of flashbacks that really set up the rest of the episode, but they're not all based in flashback. It's all present. It's kind of like a clue to guide you to what's happening on present day. Well, in this case, this was all flashbacks, and I was really worried because based on the revelations in the most recent episode, we were going to just see that all come to life for Mia about how she ended up being the surrogate and why she basically, yes, Pearl is her child, but she also had an agreement with a couple to give up that child in exchange for money, which we all saw play out.
Yeah.
I was a bit relieved when we also started to see flashbacks of Elena, and then got bored, because this episode, as much as I appreciate some of the stuff they do, it's still a really well acted show and everything. Yeah. They still committed the cardinal sin for me. We already knew this.
Yep. There you go. Yeah.
We already knew it.
Yep. That was my thought while I was watching it last night. I mean, it was there were some powerful moments, but you're right. I mean, it was sort of like, if you're gonna do this, I think it would have been narratively better to just, instead of doing it as one standalone episode, do it like they've been doing the prior flashbacks. Just drop the snippets throughout the story, because I just felt, I like you, I felt things were so telegraphed that it was kind of to get back in the context of sci-fi world, it was sort of like watching Solo. Like, why did I need this standalone film about this character?
Yep. Everything was telegraphed. That's the perfect way to put it. We are not dumb viewers, and most people are not, especially when they're quarantined.
Yeah.
And why I appreciated the show originally is because by the end of each episode, you understood why they showed that flashback. Mm-hmm. And it was so out of context that it would take 40 minutes to inform that and realize why the writers decide to start it off in that way. The past informs the future.
Right.
They really did not need to spend an hour on this. And what I'm also noticing is this show continues to have montages play at the end of every episode. Mm-hmm. Okay. The only reason why this gets under my skin is because we all know I have a history with the show Sons of Anarchy. Kurt Sutter did that to a detriment. So when I notice it, again, you don't need it.
Yeah. That didn't bother me as much. It basically. Yeah, it basically just sort of got us fast forward up to present day. Well, at least present day for them in the story, because it's still in the in the mid 90s. But
Mia comes to town. They just have to focus on. We knew she was going to town, and to your point, they chose the perfect song for this montage. Mm-hmm. And what I actually did appreciate about this episode is that it completely supports our conversation last week. This show is about moms and motherhood. Mm-hmm. And that this idea of women who, if you're Elena, you're told to live your life a certain way and you follow the plan. So was Mia. We didn't. The one thing they showed us her parents, and her parents were very strict, very traditional, and it basically caused her to run away. And then when she realized she could never go back, well, she's been the Mia we know ever since. This person who does not like staying in one place for too long.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I actually, so those scenes actually I was okay with that, given that context, and also it was just cool. It was her relationship with her brother in particular, was to me was what stood out for Mia, and sort of him sort of being that bridge between her wanting to, you know, she's more non-traditional and was wanted to be free and go to New York, and his parents, and especially the scene where he finally does visit her in the city, and that by that point she is pregnant as a surrogate mom,
Mm-hmm.
and it, you know, and it calls back to earlier parts in the episode where, you know, there was this again, there was like this whole notion that, okay, if you go to the city and you're going to pick, you know, you're picking a profession where you're not going to make any money, so you're going to end up either as a hooker or a lesbian. And then whenever she was trying to, you know, whenever they saw each other and he saw her, it was, you know, his parents. On the one hand, he was still the supportive brother who, you know, offered to give her cash back in the day and said, do what you need to do to support yourself. But then, you know, his parents came out in that same sentence when, you know, she tried to, that she's like, she's pregnant, and he, you know, he automatically assumes the worst. And so it just basically shut down the opportunity for her to explain, listen, I took your advice, and this is how I'm surviving to make my way in the world.
Yeah. She does make more sense
Mm-hmm.
to an extent, even though a lot of it was telegraphed and they ruined their previous structure. Her actions became much more understandable, and
Mm-hmm.
also how she got there, how she got to this point in her life, and it's just, and I appreciated that. But having Elena then and showing what she went through simultaneously with her life, and how they're a foil for one another, and that really came across well in this episode, and you understand why they're so at odds, and you understand, and the person who we do not necessarily see in this episode, but who is clearly the if they are two sides of the same coin, this person is that coin, and that's Izzy. Because understanding Mia and her sexuality and what happened in New York and what she explored with her teacher and her mentors, and then also juxtaposition with her parents and what her parents' perspective, that is why she has that connection with Mia, or with Izzy. And is able to help Izzy navigate that, since she's also going through this realization that she likes girls, and what does that mean? And that's still not, society still doesn't accept me. My mom won't accept me. And then we realize that with Elena's story, Izzy's the fourth kid, the kid they were not supposed to have.
Yeah. Yep.
And the resentment and and it's interesting because I will tell you, I come from a family of four. I'm not the youngest. I'm the second youngest. My parents were not supposed to have 4 children. We were supposed to have 3 children. And I don't think, my mom's not Elena. I'll just say that. My mom is not Elena. That's for sure. But I get it. I empathize with her. Mm-hmm. And I think that's they made a really interesting statement with her character and that history of Elena and who she is.
Yeah. And another thing that was too, what stood out to me with Elena, and in particular her mother, mm-hmm. Is and thinking about with what happened with Lexi and her boyfriend last week with the unplanned pregnancy, and so, you know, one thing that stood out with me with her mother was a line she said, you know, as far as with abortion, you know, we fought for that right to protect it, but then whenever, you know, when Elena was trying to come to grips with having this unplanned pregnancy, her mother was like, but even though we fought for this, this is not for us.
Right.
And then you look, and then fast forward to the future with Lexi, and the choice that she made, um, and 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 of course thinking about the choice she made and her conversation with Mia, uh, it really, I'm wondering if at some point in this story, if Lexi's going to, if her mother's going to find out about the unplanned pregnancy, and how she deals with that, because it is contrary to plan, like where it was very clear that it reinforced this whole planned life that her mother and assuming her father had for her. And so and of course Elena has for the most part followed that path, and then to the point where she and they touch on that plan, but also they touch the issues that she has to deal with the postpartum. I mean, it was postpartum depression that she was having with Izzy, and the challenges she had with breastfeeding, which many mothers have, and it was very real with that, and how Izzy was so colicky and stuff. And so it was, it really provided, even though I know we both said the episode in many ways was telegraphed, but yet it was I still found it enjoyable, because it really provided deeper context and for the content that we've seen up to this point in the show, and gives us a better understanding of those characters. And kudos to both actresses, in particular Tiffany Boone, for how she played Mia. I mean, she channeled Kerry Washington.
Before we get to that, your point about Lexi, I'm going to raise you on that point.
Okay.
Because what I think is interesting is not just that she got knocked up, but Lexi had the abortion.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And so we're beyond Lena discovering her kid got knocked up. It's more that she got knocked up, she had an abortion, something that and she did it without consulting her mother.
Yeah. While
when Elena consults her mother, she basically gets shut down, sticks to the plan, as you were saying, and it's just like, apparently I have to do this. Apparently that isn't meant to me. And so it's interesting how both Mia and Elena dealt with very similar parental guidance, that where Mia runs away and ultimately just becomes her own person. And granted, she still has Pearl, but she's not going to play by anybody else's rules. She's been scarred too many times. She couldn't even attend her own brother's funeral because of it. Mm-hmm. Meanwhile, Elena, it's the exact opposite reaction, where she tries to follow the path and what she has been told she's supposed to do her entire life. And it just continues to, any chance she has to break away from that, she continues to make the choice that she is supposed to, not the choice that she wants to.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that moment, in the bathroom after she tries to have this affair, where she's coming to the realization that she can't. It's done. She's no longer that girl. She's now a mother of 4.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, yeah. It's interesting too, in both situations where she was at the breaking point. She runs to Jamie.
Oh yeah. Jamie's the choice that she's always going to reflect on, and saying, if I had stayed, mm-hmm. I would have been Mia. Yeah. I would have had a completely different life. I would have had the life that he's enjoying right now, and I would have been with him. The fact that she's with Bill, well, that's the life her mom always told her she's supposed to have. So that's always, it always goes back to Jamie, because that's the choice, and she regrets it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. 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 And it's twice now, because, with the episode last week, I thought, okay, that was where they would have the almost encounter or would have had had sex together. But, but that clearly did not happen in the previous episode, and really interesting that given that what we learned this week, where she came very, very close, and if it hadn't been for the fact that she needed to lactate, she would have. And so it was. So whenever you see that, whenever she was younger, and then now present day again, I guess when she went to the city this time to, she was more in an investigatory mode of trying to find out more about Mia, but she still called him up and still realized that, like you said, it was, again, reflecting on that regret that she didn't make that choice when they were in Paris.
And part of the reason she disagrees with Mia, well, you know what, actually a more interesting point to bring up is to go back to your thing on Lexi and the whole abortion and that secret. Mia and Elena are currently at odds because Elena's friend adopted a child whose mother abandoned her. And they keep getting into these sparring matches about, well, who's the mother in that situation? Is it the mother who found the kid and has raised her for the past year? Or is it the mother who gave birth to her? Well, you're dealing with Mia, who was a former surrogate, ran away with her baby because she knows at the end of the day that is my blood. That is my child. That is my maternal instinct. On the other hand, you have Elena, who resents her children.
Yeah.
She resents her. She loves them, but she resents having them because they prevented her from living the life she wanted to have with Jamie. Mm-hmm. And so she wanted to give, like, I'm sure if her mother told her, she's like, well, just have Izzy and then give Izzy away.
Yeah.
like because and she was told and many years based on that conversation with her mother, you have the children, they are yours, but you have to take care of them. They're your responsibilities. There's no giving this up. Like, there's no, there's another way. So I think overall, this episode did a good job of really making that crystal clear to the viewers about why they were on such opposite sides of that issue, and it's nothing to do with the fact that they both are friends with the opposite parties or anything, and everything to do with their own baggage as being moms.
Yep. Yeah, I can't. I mean, I can't really add more to that. I think that you really hit the crux of the purpose of this episode, and really how it illustrates everything we've seen up to this point in this series.
Yeah, and we got, again, 2 more episodes to go, a lot more fires to ignite. It will escalate, and I hope that the finale isn't telegraphed. I hope there is something that catches us all off guard, and it makes that first scene in the pilot. It really makes us understand, because Elena was out of it during that scene where she's just thinking about everything and completely unhinged. So the last thing we have to talk about, there's been a lot of watch parties. There's been a lot of boredom, and I know some listeners have asked us to do some Arrow Flash watch party, but Will, what are your thoughts about diverting from our scheduled content or structure?
Yeah, so I was thinking we could do one of two things. I mean, I know hopefully folks are enjoying our content that we're talking about, Little Fires Everywhere, but we know many of our core fans are Arrowverse fans, and I know for me personally, to help get through this period, I've actually been rewatching the season 2 of The Flash, and And so, as you said, some of our listeners have approached us about doing a watch party. So if we would like to invite you all to do, especially our Arrowverse fans, to do a Flash Watch pilot watch party and an Arrow pilot watch party, and basically maybe do them as sort of little bonus hours of Scene and Nerd on the next looking at Sunday nights to do it, to help us bridge the gap in our Arrowverse lives until new shows start coming back on April 21st with the Flash. So stay tuned for details.
I still don't believe you when you say that they're coming back. I
Still
don't believe that they're coming back.
As far as the CW put something out there, now we know how that goes. I mean, schedules get changed, so but we'll see. But that's what they told us. But with this new world that we live in, anything's possible. But
we do. Please tweet Will what you want us to view as a party, because there's multiple different ways we could do this. Watching the Arrow pilot, I don't advise. We all know the criticism I'm going to have about that pilot. FYI, there's no Felicity in that pilot. Just saying. So okay. Maybe not. An idea I had earlier today is, what if we just focus on the crossovers? And that way we get the best of all the worlds and of this giant universe, and we can really reflect on what was the best overall crossover that occurred over the last 5 years.
I like crossovers. I like that idea.
Or we can just, we don't even have to do TV. We can also do movies. We're going to stick with the same format for the next 2 weeks as we wrap up Little Fires Everywhere, but we are looking at how to keep Scene and Nerd happening, even though there's very few news to gossip about. News shows are few and far between these days, but we can go back and brush the dust off some old classics.
Yeah, and you guys, you could and the cool thing about it, we could just join. We could have a big Scene and Nerd virtual watch party, and you can join in on the commentary with us as we watch our old favorites.
False. We have invited a few well-known listeners to this show, and they have not taken us up on our invitation. So I don't know if we want to invite them to our viewing party, Will. I do not know. I am tired of being rejected. I've had enough of it. We tell people all the time, just let us know if you're interested, and then we invite them, and then they're like, oh no, I'm like, what? You don't have a conversation, huh?
They have plenty of conversation, but I think they like it better to 280 characters.
Sure. Well, then exactly my point. All right. Well, on that note, Will, why don't you go tell our listeners where they can find you?
Yes, you can find me at Will M. Polk. That's WILLMPOLK. And keep an eye on our socials. We'll give you the dates and all the details for the watch parties.
Please follow me on Twitter at SJ Belmont, SJBelmont. Please follow our crew on Twitter at Scene and Nerd. Friend us on Facebook, follow us on Instagram, but most importantly, rate, subscribe, and comment on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube, and Stitcher, or wherever you get your podcasts. Good night, Geek Out. You're welcome.